In the sixth part of this Harnessing AI to Become a DevOps Pro series, I will learn about the different cloud providers and their services for computing, storage, networking, and similar. I know that the most popular cloud providers out there are AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform, and DigitalOcean. Earlier in the series, we have used AWS for a couple of things. Personally, DigitalOcean is my favorite. I have 6 servers running there with different projects. The last 2, Azure and GCP, is totally unknown for me. Which of the platform is best? Before I start asking Cleo about this, I think to myself that none of them are actually best, but what are the pros and cons of using each of them? Let's ask Cleo about this. Can you give me some pros and cons about AWS, Azure, GCP and DigitalOcean? Okay, let's begin with Amazon. Have a comprehensive services, offers a wide range of services like computing, storage, databases, machine learning and more. They have numerous data centers worldwide, can easily scale up or down to meet demand. Strong ecosystem. Yeah, I know that AWS is very popular. So the cons here are that pricing can be complicated and difficult to predict. That's something I have heard before. Since there are so many services to choose between, it can be a steep learning curve for beginners. I have noticed that throughout the series that there are a lot of different types of services and sizes to choose between. And it can be expensive, especially for small businesses or startups. And I think that's because you don't know the pricing before you actually start using it. Azure. The pros here, it can be integrated with Microsoft products, for example, Windows Server, SQL Server, I think also Office 365 or whatever it's called. Offers strong support for hybrid cloud environments. Not quite sure what that means. And it's well suited for large enterprises with existing infrastructure, and I guess that's because you can integrate it with these types of services. And just like AWS can be complex to navigate and manage, the pricing can be difficult to understand, and the performance, never heard that before, but some users report inconsistent performance across different regions. That's not good in case you want to have the servers in your region, if that's a bad region to have like that. Okay, GCP or Google Cloud Platform. GCP offers powerful tools for data analysis and machine learning. You can use TensorFlow, heard about that before. Google has a global network infrastructure which gives excellent performance and low latency. That's good. And it's open source friendly, for example Kubernetes, which is open source, which you have learned about previously in this series. The cons here is that there are fewer services compared to AWS and Azure, but that might make it easier to use at least. Lower market share, which can affect the community support and third parties, okay. But usually with projects that are not extremely big or complicated, you will probably get the help you need anyways. And once again, the pricing can be complex. So over to DigitalOcean, my favorite. It's simplicity and ease of use. So it's very ideal for developers and small businesses. It's cost effective because you actually know the pricing of the server before you start using it. And they have developer friendly tools and documentation. Their documentation is fantastic. The cons, DigitalOcean offers fewer services compared to the other 3, yes, but there are still a lot of services that they have. Not as scalable for very large enterprises. I'm not sure how large an enterprise or a project should be before you can't use DigitalOcean, because they have some insanely large servers there anyways. They have fewer data centers than these three, but still do have multiple places in America, multiple places in Europe and Asia, etc. So I think you're good to go with using DigitalOcean. So I think this was a good list of pros and cons for each of them. And after reading this, I think it should be possible to select one of them based on the project you are building. In most cases, I think I would just go for DigitalOcean. But if I take an example, if I want to build a hobby project, I would definitely use DigitalOcean. But for a project where I'm going to use, for example, machine learning, I would use GCP because they support, for example, TensorFlow and BigQuery. For a project where I'm going to need integration for example, Office 365, I think Azure would be a good fit. And if you're going to build a very large application where you need auto-scaling and you don't have to really think about your budget, you could go for AWS. So now I know a little bit more about which of the providers I should use for the different types of projects. I guess that even if there are pros and cons to each of them, really learning one of them can be beneficial. For example, if you're really good at AWS, there are probably good jobs for you. So being really good and efficient at a cloud service provider means that your business can save money and that your services will more likely work better. Now that I know the pros and cons for each of them, what more should I learn about the different cloud providers? Okay, so to deepen your understanding of the different cloud providers, consider exploring the following areas. So learn more about the service offerings, the pricing models, how their security is, deployment and management tools, for example, infrastructure as code. We have learned a little bit about that previously. Networking, hybrid and multi-cloud strategies. You can read about other people's uses of these to understand if, for example, if their business is similar to yours, etc. If they have certificates and training, that can be good if you're, for example, wanting to apply for a job. How the community and support is, and if they are innovating the product or they're just becoming old-fashioned. So I think that if I should read about all of these things, 10 things here for each of these 4 cloud providers, that would require a lot of reading. So I'm going to try to use Clio for what she's really good at. Can you create an article for AWS where you write about each of these 10 subjects? So then I should hopefully get a shorter article just for AWS, so I can learn a little bit about each of these points here or subjects. Okay, so let's begin at the top. Service offerings. Here you can learn about the computing, what they do, their storages, databases they offer, networking and security. Okay, so they also offer specialized services like in machine learning, serverless computing. Okay, so now I know a little bit more about what they can offer me. So the pricing models: pay only for the resources that you use. That's good, but it can also be scary. Commit to using specific resources for a reduced rate. Okay. Bid on unused resources for cost saving. That's cool. And they also have a pricing calculator. That's nice to know. For security and compliance, they have security is a top priority for AWS, and they offer features like encryption, network security, etc. They have deployment tools like CloudFormation, CloudWatch for monitoring and logging, and they have hybrid and multi-cloud strategies, allowing integration for on-premise infrastructure. Case studies, yeah, for example, Netflix, Airbnb, and NASA uses AWS. It's very good to know that. That way you know that if you're lucky enough to build a service like one of these, you can have them served at AWS. And yeah, you have certification, so you can be certified solutions architect or certified developer or certified sysops administrator. And they have online courses, tutorials, and workshops. Great. When it comes to their community and support, they have a vibrant community with forums, user groups, and events. Great. Innovation, yeah, I know that they are innovative. For example, they have AI/ML, blockchain, etc. So now we'll know a little bit more about each of these 10, specifically for AWS. If I wanted to, I could ask Clio to generate an article like this for Google Cloud Platform, Azure, and also DigitalOcean, or Hetzner, or anyone else if I wanted to do that. But it's not necessary for me to just sit here and read this for you. So I think this is really neat. Anyways, what is actually cloud computing? Is there a difference between cloud computing and regular dedicated servers, or is it just a different name for the same thing? Let's see what Clio has to say about this. Is there a difference between cloud computing and more dedicated servers? Okay, yes. So for scalability, we use cloud. So it seems like easier to scale when you're using the cloud. It's more cost efficient. No, not necessarily cost efficient, but yeah, in the cloud you typically pay as you go. That can be scary, but it can also save you bucks if you don't have a lot of users. The cloud typically provides better flexibility with all of the services that you can use. Yeah, they are also managed by the cloud provider, so if there's anything wrong, then for example AWS will probably fix that. Offers high availability and redundancy, which means that you can have minimal downtime and data loss. That is very important when you're scaling. Deployment speed allows a rapid deployment because yeah, there are so much computing resources available. Dedicated servers. You have limited scalability when comparing this to cloud computing because you need to purchase additional hardware, which can be time consuming and costly. You have a fixed monthly or annual cost regardless of usage. That is not good, but it's also very neat to know what you actually are going to pay. Typically you have less flexibility in terms of services and configuration. You have less control. You have control over the server's hardware and software, but changes may require physical intervention. Requires in-house IT management for hardware maintenance. I guess that's not completely true. If you rent a dedicated server on, for example, DigitalOcean, you don't have in-house IT management there. They at DigitalOcean will still manage this for you. And limited redundancy availability. If you have multiple data or dedicated servers, I don't think this is completely true. Deployment can take longer. It may involve setting up physical hardware and configure. Yeah, it depends on if you're building the servers yourself or if you're just renting them. So my assumption that they were the same thing was wrong, but even though they are not the same thing, being a DevOps means that I should know how to create, manage and drift a dedicated server as well. This might require some more Linux skills though. Anyways, in this article we have now learned about the pros and cons for the most popular cloud providers. We also learned a little bit more in detail about what they can help us with and what the difference between cloud and dedicated servers are. In the next part of this series we will dive into monitoring and logging and hope that will excite you as well. See you in the next video.